Hello, I'm going to show you how to make one back and make one front increases, how to work those increases. I'm showing you this on the cuff of some stranded colour work mittens that myself and my friend Sarah Alderson have designed for a mystery knit along that we're running at the moment. But I'm only working with the main colour in this demonstration. So I'm just going to knit a couple of stitches before I show you the technique. Now, the make one back and make one front increases are worked using the strand that runs between stitches. So between the stitch that's on the working needle and the stitch that's on the passive needle, the increase is worked to the strand that's running between those two stitches there. That's the main colour strand that you can see there. However, because this is stranded colour work, there is also a contrast colour strand running below that behind the work. If I wanted to use that strand, I pull that strand through to the front of the work below the main colour strand, because always the main colour floats above the contrast colour in stranded colour work. So I would pull the contrast colour strand through to the front below the main colour before I worked the increase, or I would take the point of my needle through below the main colour to pick up the strand. The point of the way that we've instructed these increases is that we're going to pick the strand up with the passive needle. So if it's the main colour strand here that I was picking up, I either pick it up from behind, which is a make one, I would then be working a make one back, or I pick it up from in front, in which case I'd be working a make one front. And in the case of the strand from stranded colour work, the contrast colour strand, I would go through under the main colour yarn to pick that up from behind to work a make one back, and go below it from in front to pick it up to make a make one front, always with the passive needle. And then I'm going to demonstrate the technique, however, with the main colour strand. So in a make one front, I pick the strand up from in front with the passive needle, and then with my working needle I knit into the back of the strand. That is, I enter it as though it's a knit stitch and as though I'm working into the back of the knit stitch, and that ends up, I wrap the yarn and complete the stitch, or pick up the yarn if you're working continental to complete the stitch. You'll see that twist, because I've worked into the back of it, it's twisted the strand below the stitch on my needle, so that makes a nice close. If I don't twist it, I'd end up with a big hole where I'm making the new stitch. But because I've twisted it, it makes a nice closed hole. I'll work the next stitch so you can see that there's not a big hole there. The way that the strand twists below the new stitch makes a nice fabric. So I'll just work a couple more stitches and work another of those make one front increases. So taking my passive needle below the strand between stitches from in front to pick it up on the passive needle, and then knitting into that strand from behind as though I'm working into the back of a knit stitch, and then complete the stitch. That's a make one back increase. Shall we attempt one with the contrast colour? Let's work to where the contrast colours there. I can just see it peeking up. Make one front, go and pick up. The way I'm going to do it is I've picked up both, and I'm just going to pull the main colour strand back over the contrast colour strand, so that there I've now got the contrast colour strand only on the needle, and I'm going to work into the back of that contrast colour strand. So that's a make one front in the contrast colour yarn. And can you see it's peeping there between the two main colour stitches? So that's a make one front. Let's work a make one back. Here we are. The passive needle picks up the strand between stitches from behind. So that's make one back, because we're entering from the back, picking up the strand between stitches from the back. And then we just knit it in as though it's an ordinary knit stitch, entering it from the far side of the stitch to knit it. And because of the way that we picked up the strand, picking it up from behind, that then twists that strand below the stitch, as you can see there. I'm going to knit a couple of more stitches and work one picking up the, oh no, not there, because I want to pick up the contrast colour where it wasn't trapped. So I'm going to pick up this contrast colour from behind, so I'm going below the main colour to scoop up the contrast colour from behind with my passive needle, and then I knit into the front of that strand as though it's a stitch on my needle. And then it's looped nicely. It's twisted below the stitch that I've made with it. And that makes a nice closed hole. And that's it. That's make one back and make one front increases, everybody. Thank you very much.